What's going on, Sue?
That was so creepy.
Hey, what's up guys, it's Dory from Bluebird, and this is our brand new destoner we got from Junior just a couple of months ago. I say brand new because we've only started using it properly recently. We've had some pretty major issues getting it tuned correctly and working well, but it is grafting nicely now. And proof of that is this little stone we pulled out of our coffee today. This jar is actually, or this bottle is actually full of random stones and BB bullets and corn that has arrived from origin in our green coffee, and we've actually pulled it out of the roasted coffee after it's gone through our whole process. And this machine actually allows us to separate coffee from anything else very efficiently to make sure you don't get any stones in your grinder. That's the biggest issue that we're obviously concerned with. Can you imagine if one of these guys ended up in a 50,000 Rand grinder in a cafe? It would be a pretty sad day for all of us. So super amped to see it working. I think we pulled 2 stones out in the last week, which, you know, it's funny, you don't want stones in your coffee, but when you've bought an expensive destoner, it's actually quite fulfilling to like see them come out and have like your purchase validated. So we're happy. You know, kind of relevant to the whole thing is today we actually roasted all of our wholesale coffee for the week in one day, because of the level 4 lockdown at the moment, and all of our wholesale partners, or a lot of our wholesale partners, being negatively affected, which obviously has a knock-on effect in the roastery. And we'll be okay, but a lot of people in the industry won't be, and there are a lot of people in the hospitality industry sitting at home at the moment with no work, and it's a really tough time for everybody. So if you're watching this while level 4 is still ongoing, please get out there, go and support however you can. Go grab a coffee, go grab a takeaway meal, triple tip. People need the money right now, and yeah, all the support is massively appreciated. So a couple of weeks ago, we also sent out a very special coffee to all of the competitors in the SA AeroPress Championships. We're super proud to be sponsoring the event this year. Round 1 is happening remotely. It's quite an interesting format, obviously with its challenges, but the competitors will be brewing with some spectacular coffee. We've sent out the Couture Natural from Vulcan Azul, and in the final round, we've actually kept a single batch of Liliana Geisha from Vulcan Azul. So same farm, but the finalists will get to work with one of the best coffees we've ever tasted. In this next segment, Fani, who's competing at the SA AeroPress Champs, will be taking you through his process of dialing in his recipe and actually giving you a few options of what he's thinking at the moment before sending in his final recipe to the Coffee Mag for remote brewing and judging. And we're hoping he gets through to the final round.
Hey there guys, Fani here, and I'm going to take you guys through the process that I use to dial in a new coffee on the AeroPress. So this is kind of the same approach that I took to approaching the AeroPress competition coffee. Obviously we are sponsoring the coffee for the competition, so I'm familiar with it, but I don't brew a lot of AeroPress. So when the package, surprise, surprise, arrived at my doorstep, I had not been aware that I'd been entered, and I kind of had to approach this like I would dialing in a new coffee. So I'm going to take you guys through my process. So what I would recommend you do when you're dialing in a new coffee on any brewing method is you kind of just start with your standard method, right? Trust your brew method, trust your best practice, and from there you can kind of make the necessary adjustments in line with what you're tasting. So for today, I'm going to be using 17 grams of coffee, and I'm going to be using 200 mils of boiling water for our brew today. So I've got my AeroPress over here. I've preheated that bad boy. Just need to maintain that temperature stability, you know. So like I said, it's a 17 gram dose. We're going to be using about 200 grams of brew water. It's a nice tight brewing ratio. So with the AeroPress, I like to bump up the brew ratio. Specifically for this brew, I'm using a fairly fine grind size, a little bit finer than I would go for something like a V60 or any other pour over method. So add my Comandante, with my Comandante, I'm sitting at about 20 clicks off of 0, which is our standard range between 19 and 21 clicks for AeroPress brewing. So this is the standard method that I'd use in the cafe at home brewing my AeroPress. So like I said, we're starting out with a 17 gram dose. We're doing a 200 gram, one single pour. I pour from nice and high and nice and aggressive. With the AeroPress, I've got no regard for really clogging my filter. There we are. So I can pour nice and aggressively. What I'm going to do is I'm going to let this sit for a little bit, right? I'm not going to agitate immediately right off the bat. So we're going to be looking at a fairly quick brew. So we're looking at a total brew time of about of about 2 minutes. We're looking at a total brew time of around 2 minutes. And we're going to start pressing at about 1 minute and 30 seconds. I'm going to agitate around 1 minute 15 just to break that crust, get some agitation going. I'll cap, flip, and press. So I am using the inverted method. My logic behind that, I don't like the percolation that happens at the start of an AeroPress brew. I feel like your AeroPress should be a full immersion brew all the way through, and therefore I like using the inverted method. So once I stir, I'll show you guys what I'm going to do, but I'm going to actually insert my plunger further into my AeroPress to avoid the what we refer to as the aero mess, right? You don't want your brew to explode all over the counter. So here we do 5 back and forth stirs, cap, there we are. So I'm just sinking my plunger a little further in. I'll put my pitcher on top here, flip, and now we're pressing for 30 seconds. I press past the hiss. Right, if you're not into that, that's also okay. I just don't believe that it makes that big of a difference. I'm going to decant into a cupping bowl for tasting, kind of to get the temperature down to a drinkable level. It's also nicer to taste out of a cupping bowl. So the logic behind this style of brew with the AeroPress, I like to approach it a little bit more aggressively. I like to approach it with a quicker brew style. I like to use things like agitation and pressure to extract my coffee as opposed to extending the grind time. So we're looking at a finer grind size, we're looking at a shorter brew time than your percolation methods. We're looking at a more aggressive quote unquote brew because I'm agitating a lot. I'm going to be moving my coffee particles around in my water quite a lot. I'm going to be applying pressure to my brew, which increases the aggressiveness with which I'm brewing. The brew that we're expecting from this cup is going to be quite viscous, going to be quite flavorful, syrupy, and sweet. So on my first pass, what I'm immediately picking up is solid sweetness. There is an element of over extraction going on in the cup today. That's just how it goes with the AeroPress. So my assumption is that would be a result of the aggressive swirl that I gave it while pressing, which would increase the extraction. So that's definitely something to bear in mind when you're brewing your AeroPress, is that every action will have a reaction in your cup. The characteristics that we're picking out is a beautiful milk chocolate flavor profile, something very similar to Milo. There's a little bit of red fruit going on, some red berries, reminiscent of Costa Rican coffees. This coffee is also a natural process, so you've got that really, really nice syrupy body, which is highlighted by the AeroPress Brewing method. Overall, fantastic drinking experience. I'd be very happy with this. If I were to make some brew adjustments, I'd probably press for 40 seconds longer. Kind of just easing up on that extraction process during using pressure, right? So not applying as much pressure, just giving me a little bit more room to extract with agitation and other means of extraction. So with that in mind, I'm going to be working with 2 recipes that I am thinking of submitting to the competition. Today is the 7th and the recipes need to be submitted by the 12th, which is the day that you guys will be seeing this video. So I am technically talking to future people here. But so the first recipe that I'll be submitting is going to be the one that I showed you guys initially. The second being a recipe that is using much less agitation, using a much coarser grind size with a longer brew time, sitting around 2.5 minutes brewing and a 30-second press to around 3 minutes, using 20, 27, 28 clicks on the Comandante as my grind size frame of reference. But yeah guys, that's it for this video. Thank you guys for tuning in. Like the video, subscribe. If you guys have any questions about brewing the AeroPress, you guys should comment them down below and we'll get to those in a future video. Cheers guys.